I thank you, Grandma, for another wonderful response. I don't think I could ever follow up with as good of one. Um, but anyway, I guess we can go all the way back then to first grade when 9/11 did happen. Um, that day is branded into my memory. I'll never forget it. My dad happens to be a volunteer fireman within our tight knit community of Plando. Um, Honestly, I think all the fathers in in our neighborhood almost feel obliged to join. Um, and I recall, hearing the announcement over the loudspeakers and looking around at my friends who had parents that worked in the World Trade Centers. And slowly but surely, mothers came to the school and picked up their children one by one. I happened to be one of them. And I ran back to that house on South Drive, straight to the basement, turned on the TV, and remember just watching everything. In the time after that, I remember helping my mom prepare baskets to bring to our, the affected families, or even bring them into the classroom itself. We prepared, like, I would say, this giant bin of just toys and games to just help the children, um, you know, get back to normal living and to try to get their mind thinking about something else. Um, and fast forward just a few months to March, when I experienced a similar loss, the class prepared a similar bin for me as well. I remember thinking it was so kind of all the students to come together and the moms of the classroom, to put together something so nice. I'm sure. Do you remember?
I remember it was left on the side steps.
Yeah. Little games and treats to be left inside. I actually think we still have some of the games in my basement, left over. Um, and it was just wonderful to know that, people in the community truly care. Um, and, even nowadays, last year, my friend's mother was really sick, Jessica Kelly's mom, with breast cancer. And it's just now that I'm older and can actually be part of it and seeing the community come together and helping my stepmother prepare our family's famous gravy, that's a marinara meat sauce with meatballs, and deliver it, and to see the whole family light up, and even the mom who was ill just get so excited and be so grateful that there are people in the community that care and expect absolutely nothing in return, because they know that if they were ever to experience some sort of tragedy or pain, that we'd be here for them. Um, and, food is definitely a vehicle to provide comfort and to show love and support. And as Grandma mentioned, we come around the table every Sunday, to just sit around and talk. And I actually got to do the same with you and your family at Shabbat dinner, a few Fridays back. And it was a wonderful experience. There's nothing more that I cherish than family, friends, communication, and food, just talking around the table. Um, it's a beautiful thing. So thank you, Grandma, for that. All right, Grandma. So we'll flash forward to where we are today, 2015. It's been now 13 years since Mommy's passed away. But every year since, we've had, I guess, a similar tradition of making sure a mass was said in Mommy's name. Always Stephanie Dazzo Paterek. We lose her middle name of Ann. Still a beautiful middle name, although she didn't like it.
No.
She didn't like it. They always butcher it, but it's okay because we know who they're talking about. And we always go to a meal afterwards, or sometimes gather at my grandma's house beforehand to nibble on some prior snacks and to just get the day started. Would you like to walk us through that day, the routine of what we do to remember Mom on March 10th?
Right. Well, I think for me personally, that whole week is like living the past each day until the day March 10th arrives. So each day is a different prayer that I say, a different thought that I think of, a particular time that I cherish. And then I always feel, I said this at the dinner this year, that I read somewhere. If you live in the hearts of those you leave behind, you never die. So I always feel that it's so important for us to get together and honor my daughter, because she was really one of the loveliest, sweetest, kind person that you could ever meet. and I want her children, because I'm the only one, my husband and I are the only one that knew Stephanie from day one. So for any of our histories, we are the ones to give it to Juliet and Jimmy. So that day is a day of setting aside for Mass. Mass is so important. To receive communion in her honor is a very holy, sacred thing to do. And then just having us, the immediate family, Jim, whom I didn't mention before, but he and I get along, thank God, so well that we really, those 4 years were wonderful. We healed together, we cried together, we laughed together, we argued at times together. So I have to say that it's Jim and Courtney, thank God. I think my daughter and the angels sent her to us, and the other little children. They were with us, and my son Mark and his wife. This year his 2 sons couldn't make it. But we always try, and Juliet, of course, wasn't there, but I tell her we talk about Mom every single day. And she talks about her with such love and kindness and respect. So she doesn't have to be here physically. I know she thinks of her mother always, and her mother's in her heart. So I said, Jewel, enjoy yourself. I'm not putting you on a guilt trip. I want you to have a wonderful time, and we will pray on our behalf for Mom, and I'm sure Juliet said her prayers for her too. So then we usually come back after a beautiful Mass, come to my home for bagels and fruit and cheeses and donuts and whatever, and sit around. And this year we did a lot of talking about Stephanie and things we did in my house and in my yard, and the fun John and I had with the children and their friends, and then her family and Mark's family. And then we went to eat out. And then Jim, really, he took us down memory lane. And it was so beautiful that he remembered so many wonderful events that we, the Dazzos and Patereks and Buffalanos, enjoyed. And even my son, we were all staring at Jim. It was like down to the letter. He remembered everything. And it was so beautiful. And it's a testament to my daughter. That's all I could say. That Juliet is my daughter. She is the living Stephanie of today. And
thanks, Grandma.
I am just so honored that we have such a beautiful relationship.
Thank you.
And my daughter left me 2 beautiful treasures. And that each day I miss her, but I know she would want me to be strong. And I am.
And I'm going to take it from there, because what you said at the beginning and it ended with was that in the heart, or literally I am made up of both my mother and my father, but on a more spiritual level, I truthfully feel that I, emanate some of her personality, or you say I remind you and everyone so much of her. So I truthfully believe that I do, both me and Jimmy are the closest things to her. And that's something I take pride in, just because of all the stories I hear and how she was just such an amazing, incredible person that words could not even begin to describe how thankful and kind and gracious she was. I definitely have big shoes to fill.
And humble.
Yes, and humble.
Yeah.
Just based on the stories I hear. But like you said, we carry a piece of her in our hearts every day. And then that's the most important thing to do. And although I wasn't there this year, Dad did send me a picture, now that you're in the world of technology and have an iPhone too, of you toasting.
With my margarita.
With a margarita.
Toasting her, yes.
So, anyway, little foods like that may not mean anything to the table next over. What is she doing with the margarita in her hand? Mm-hmm. But that's something that's symbolic and, valuable in my family. Is, something as silly as margarita can mean something to us. It's my mom's favorite drink.
And she didn't drink much, so for us, that one margarita meant something special.
Yeah. But those little things like butterflies and cardinals and blue jays,
songs, smells,
all those things are, symbolic and representative of Mommy and our family. Anyway, thank you so much, Grandma, for everything.
Oh, this was wonderful. Absolutely.
I'm so
as much as it was painful, it's joyful, and I'm just so happy that I have this opportunity, really, because we have a special young woman here who I'm just so very, very proud of, who's also very humble and kind and loving and sensitive. And she's Juliet. We don't want to confuse her. She's Juliet, and she has a lot of wonderful qualities of her own. So I want her to always know she's unique and individual. And she does have her mom and her dad in there. But Juliet is herself, and I'm so very proud.
Well, thank you so much again, Grandma.
You're welcome, honey.
Well, thank you for tuning in to today's show. I hope you enjoyed it. I sure did. My grandma is a wonderful person. Love her to death, and luckily, I take her to college. I take her to college with me because of our iPhones nowadays. She texts me like crazy on here. She's a texting fiend. But putting that aside, I think we learned a lot today, and I think the take home message is that each individual can become so manifested in their religious traditions, whether you're Christian or Jewish. You partake in these practices with your family, and you become one with them. They define you, they make you who you are. But in the end, you can connect with family members who have passed, with traditions that your ancestors have been practicing. But more importantly, you connect with God. And at the end of the day, what you have is food and faith. Those two, or two. Thank you again for tuning in, and I look forward to seeing you next time.